I think that would be like one of the big things is to just take more chances and be okay with failing. Because if you're like the biggest thing is like you never fail because if you're learning something out of it, that's the biggest takeaway, right? Because then you're actually like growing
That
and
is
not failing.
No, that's so powerful. And it's true, but we are all afraid of stepping outside of our box, taking that chance, risking something. And it's like, how much fun do you have by taking that chance? And even if you are told no, it's not the end of the world. It's different. Being rejected is way different than being ejected by an airplane of 1,000 miles an hour to a fire death, right? It's like,
Oh yeah.
have you ever faced a closed door, one you really wanted and needed to walk through, and wondered if there was another way in? Today, I sit down with my longtime friend, John Duong, a business strategist and corporate innovator who has mastered the art of persistence and adaptability. From being initially rejected by a top-tier business school to climbing the ranks at AT&T and eventually becoming a creative director, John has built his success by refusing to take no as the final answer. Get ready to rethink rejection and unlock new possibilities as John Duong shares how to turn personal obstacles into new opportunities on this episode of Navigating No. Thank you for doing this for me because you are like a brother to me. And you and I met in college, and it's so funny. The reason I wanted you on is because the other day I ran into somebody and they were like, Blue, you are so energetic. Like, you're so optimistic. Like, I wish I was that way. And I was like, no, you need to meet my buddy John because he is the epitome of optimism and like just being positive. And so I love that about you. And that's why I wanted to bring you on because your career and your journey has always been positive. And I love that about you.
Oh gosh, thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, it's been a journey for sure. Like just kind of giving you some background. I know that not everyone knows me, but you know,
They
I
should. Everybody should know, John.
but we met like back in college, but like kind of rehashing like our passions. Like I think like during those college days, it really going through like the whole like UW business and everything,
Mhm.
uh, really learned that I had a passion for going through like business strategy and process improvements.
Mhm.
So during that time, that's where I kind of like got a role over with AT&T. I've been with AT&T for kind of like 9 years, which is kind of crazy. Or
A
no, or
long,
actually
yeah, I
25
was gonna
years. Sorry,
25
no,
years. I was gonna correct you on
25
that
years.
one. But
Since
you're from
college.
Spokane and I'm from Spokane, and we didn't know each other. We went to rival high schools, and I didn't know you until we went to college together.
Oh yeah,
Because
that's
you
so
went to Central
crazy.
Valley and I went to Ferris.
Yeah.
And it was the funniest thing because when I met you, you went by John. That was your name. But in Spokane, you went by Hoa. And if I ever came back to Spokane, I'm like, oh yeah, one of my best friends named John. And they're like, I have no idea who you're talking about. But if I had used Hoa, people knew who you were. That's how incredible nicknames are or other names, right?
Oh yeah. Like my parents like growing up, my parents changed. Well, I think like my brother and sister had some challenges with their names growing up. And I think during that time they wanted to just make it easier for everyone because like Spokane's predominantly was like white growing up, right? And then
Yeah.
we were like maybe one of two Asian families, and Hoa is like not a very like common name, right? So
Sure, sure.
they wanted to make it a lot easier. So like when I was in high school, well, going into high school, they changed my name. Well, I got to pick it in my name, so that was like a very unique opportunity, and I picked John. And then it didn't really stick in high school at all. So that's when we like formally moved it over to reinventing myself in college. So
Oh my
that's
God, I wish I had reinvented my name because growing up with blue sucked, right? But now it's cool. But as a kid, I wanted to change it so badly.
oh, what were you thinking of changing it to?
Rick.
Really?
I swear, I have no idea why. And my mom makes fun of me on that. She's always like, why did you want Rick? I go, I don't know. It was just different than blue because I got made fun of so much. So I should have gone with John, is what I should have done.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a common name, right? It's like easy.
It's such a common name. Rick and John, just hanging out. Well, it's funny because we actually met at UW. And we both, it's funny. I actually bring you up because in my book, because you were one of my best friends, but it was funny because you were one of my karate students at UW, but you were also outside of class, you were my mentor because you were really smart, right? And I was always like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. And he brought me along and you would help me along with things. And it was like, you were somebody that I looked up to for sure when I met you at UW. And then you and I both tried to get into the business school.
Oh yeah. And that was a challenging part. That was a really fun time, but it was also like really competitive at the time too, right? So like just getting into the school was like kind of like a big deal.
Hmm.
And that was one of the like the pivotal moments I think that like that you actually helped me out with quite a bit because like the first time like when I was going through UW, I was originally kind of going through the track that like my brother went through, which was like the engineering track. So all of my prereqs and everything that was I was starting to go through, it was just like going into to either computer science or like electrical engineering, which
Hmm.
you know I was just kind of like going with the flow and just
Yeah.
telling, like, kind of being told what to do.
Hmm.
Um, and then like after I had like one internship um, doing like computer science, and it was terrible. It was terrible. I did not like it at all. I was like, what
Right.
am I doing? Like I just
Yeah.
like I'm kind of like getting pushed into this like space because like I didn't have like a lot of like true direction back then.
Yeah.
I was
But
just like kind of going through all
I
these
think
reading
people
classes.
I think people should hear that because you think like, oh, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get this degree and I'm going to become this, right? And it's like if you don't have that goal set out already, you're mindlessly, aimlessly walking through this and you're like, oh, what's going to make me happy? And it's like I would want people to know that it's okay to change your mind and that it's okay to kind of follow those passions because it can change at any moment. Like if you take a class or if you meet someone, for example, that says, I don't think you'll be good at this job or you're not going to have fun at this job or love this job. It's okay to pivot and change, right? And that's obviously what you were doing.
Oh yeah, like I didn't necessarily know like have a passion, but when I first started, I started with like a freshman interest group that essentially gives you this like core group of people to start like college with, and
Mhm.
I kind of like stuck with them for like 2 years until I figured out like I don't like this at all. Like this, like I don't want to like be doing this for the rest of my life or
Sure.
like for a good portion. So then that's when I switched gears to like business. But then at that point, like I went through all these engineering weeder classes. So like my grade point was like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like great. It was like I
Mhm.
think it was like a 3.35 or 3.4.
Mhm.
But like to get into business school, it's like you have to be like cream of the crop kind of, right?
Yeah, you had to up your ante. I think it is more difficult now to get into the business school at UW.
Oh, for sure now.
But that
It's
goes for
got
any college, right? I think that's for any college. It is definitely the bar has been raised. But at the same time, it was difficult for us to get in. Like it was definitely cream of the crop is what you say, but it's like you had to have testing, you had to have all these things, and you had to have these courses that showed you could do this and extracurricular things. So I'm
yeah,
hands
leadership
down.
and like volunteering and just like you have to build this big resume.
Hmm.
And then I'm going from like another like kind of like educational path and trying to jump over. And
Hmm.
then that's when we met. And then it's just like, oh wow, this is definitely more my route of like, people strategy, process improvements. Yeah, that's when I figured out like this is like what I actually like enjoy doing.
Hmm.
But then that first year, like I think I applied um
The business
for
school.
business school, and then I
Mhm.
got rejected. And I remember talking to you about that and like trying to figure out like what options, because like I think you were going through something similar, right?
Well,
um
yeah, I had been rejected. So my story was I was trying to do business in Japanese. I wanted to do international business law, like international corporate law. And to do that, I wanted to get business Japanese and then also a business degree at the same time. And so I was goal set and that's what I wanted to do. And I had everything that I needed to do. I only needed to get into the Japanese program and the business program. And I didn't get into the business program. I was denied. And I was like, uh-oh, like now what? And I was at this crossroad where I was like, I had the opportunity to take business classes, for that next year and then reapply the following year, or I could quit and change degrees. I could go to mechanical engineering, even though I never wanted to do that. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll do it again. So I took business classes for a year and then I reapplied my second year and I got denied and rejected again. And the only reason that I was able to brainstorm with you is because at that moment I was like, oh, what do I do now? Do I take another year of business classes in hopes that I have a major or a degree with business classes and I apply the third year and get it? Or what do I do? And I decided to take action. I just went into the dean's office and I was like, listen, I have made your dean's list every quarter. I've done all these extracurricular things. I've worked my resume. And he goes, Blue, because you didn't quit and because you actually came up and asked me, I have 2 spots available and I'm giving you one. And so the whole reason I could brainstorm with you is because I had been rejected twice already. So that
Oh
was
my
not the
gosh.
first thing.
Yeah, I remember getting that rejection the first time. I was so worried. And then I remember like going like brainstorming with you and then just like exhausting all avenues. And I think that's like something that's like kind of stuck with me because like I think from there we kind of brainstormed like, what one of the options would be applying for the like UW Bothell campus,
Mm-hmm.
essentially the same degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then finishing up my night classes at like the UW campus, like the main one, which I was already kind of like working full time at that point. So, and then that's where I got into the Bothell UW, and then got in that way. So, and then
And then
that's like
you
something
just
that
came in later.
yeah, and that's something I use like all the time. Still, is that like whenever there is like a no, like I kind of like go through like if it's something I really want, start taking a look at like what are all the avenues of maybe like the first avenue is not like you might get a no, but then
Mm-hmm.
like looking at it from all these different perspectives of how you can still get in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it definitely worked. It was like, that was one of the major things, one of the major no's that I had received in the
Well,
past.
but you didn't let it stop you. It wasn't like the end of the world that you got it. It was like we sat down and we thought about like what are your other avenues that you can go through, or if you're at that door, how much longer can it take? Because for me, it took a whole year to apply again, and that was my route. It took a whole year versus somebody who got in the first time, right? And this could go for a law degree. It could go for the passing the bar. It's like if you fail the first, it sucks. It took
Yeah.
I am sure you felt that. You're like you had to tell your parents that you didn't get in. You had to tell all your family members maybe this
Oh
isn't the
yeah,
right
totally like
direction I'm going to
embarrassing, right?
go.
It's like, oh, I didn't
Oh,
get it. Like,
am I meant to do this? So you start to self-doubt yourself, right?
oh, for
And
sure.
but you did not quit. And that, I think one of the main things is that that I want people to hear is that it's you surround yourself around people that support you and they're your greatest cheerleaders, and that maybe people who have gone through the fire that you're trying to go through, right? And so it's like I had gone through it twice and I had that experience and I was like, let's find out how you can get through that fire too. And it might hurt, but well, let's get it through it together.
Oh yeah, and that's a big deal too. Is like having the right people around you to like kind of like support you and motivate you and like and brainstorm ways like that is like a huge important thing to have in life for sure. Um,
So, so how did you? So after you got into business school and you did brainstorm and we both graduated, how did you use that experience of being rejected, a hard experience where you got embarrassed and you had to tell everybody and you're like, oh, what do I do? And you start to second guess yourself. How did you use that moving forward and getting into corporate and moving up the corporate ladder or following your passions or doing whatever it is? What is it that you learned from that moment?
Gosh, well, some of the big things is one, like exhausting all your different options. We do this at work quite a bit. Is like I'm kind of on a process/strategy team at AT&T where we kind of build out anything that deals with building out the network or like
Mm-hmm.
cell sites essentially. So
Mm-hmm.
anything with construction and engineering, and we're on the national side of the house. So we're like in the program office where where our mission is to kind of transform this business to incorporate more AI and automation. So to make
Sure.
things like simpler, easier for people to do. So that's kind of our edict. But with governing all this change, there's thousands of people out in the field who've been kind of like doing things, kind of like the way that they've been doing it for years
Stuck in
and
their
years.
ways.
Yeah. Then
Yeah.
you have like the market perspectives and the regional perspectives. So there's a lot of people that just like don't want to either use the new systems or use the new processes. So we get no like constantly, and it goes all the way up the chain to like VPs to say like, no, we're not going to change that.
Mm-hmm.
But then like the big exercises that we do on our teams is like we look at like what's our mission, what's like the most critical things that we need to change, and then
Mm-hmm.
how quickly do we need to change it, and then looking at it from like a timeline perspective, and prioritizing what's the most important things that we want to get through.
Mm-hmm.
We start brainstorming like what are the different avenues. Like there's like the people avenue, there's the process avenue, there's a system avenue of of how you can facilitate change.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also kind of understanding like what the problems are too. It's like you need to kind of know why it's a hard no. Like sometimes it's like a soft no um, on some of these things. Maybe it's like if you just tweak one thing, they would be an advocate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
It's putting yourself in the customer shoe, in your leaderships, in C-level groups. It's like trying to find the best team organization that you could change one little thing because it might not cost a lot. It might not take a lot of effort to get to that yes.
oh yeah, it's just like knowing that the voice of the customer, so to know like what's actually like what their driver is or what's their hiccup,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes it's like the soft skills too. Is just like trying to figure out like prepping them for change. You can't just like
Mm-hmm.
come in with like a ton of change because you'll get a lot of no's if you're just like blindsiding people. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
kind of like giving them like this is the roadmap, this is like your inputs to the roadmap, this is how you can be successful. Like kind of like sell it to them from this perspective of like what's in it for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's like been very successful in that as well. Is
Well,
like one.
most people don't care about you. They care about what's their bottom line, right? Like, how are you going to help them? What value are they going to get? And that goes in any industry that we're in. It's like most people care about themselves. And so, how do you soft lead them or hold their hand into getting them or inspiring them or motivating them to come along with you? And I love your soft skills, but that's kind of what I wanted to tap in on with you because you are so optimistic. You're like not only as a leader of your team and your groups, but it's like just a personality wise, you are uber magnetic. And people look at me and they're like, "Oh, that guy is so like." When you walk into a room, John, you steal the show. Like I'm like, "Whoa, this guy is
Oh, I don't know about
so
that.
happy." You're so happy. Well, it's like people want to work for you. People want to work with you, and people want to like use you as like a magnet and like create that environment because you create that community where you draw people in and people want to be around you. And I think that have you always had that magnetic feel with people? Like have you always just been that way, or is that a skill set that you kind of learned how to get?
I think it's something that you like practice. I think for me, it's something I practice every day. It's like, I kind of like wake up. I'm just kind of like I'm very thankful. I'm thankful for like where my life is. I'm thankful for like my body and being able to like do things, like
Hmm.
being able to be have like opportunities to make a difference in not only just like corporate world, but like in my personal life with hobbies and travel.
Hmm.
Um, I kind of like first thing is like I'm very thankful. I know that things aren't owed to me. So like when things happen, I'm very thankful that like either like I have a network of people or I'm
Hmm.
thankful that I have an opportunity to kind of change like something at work. Like nothing's totally solid. Like I'm not taking life as
For
like
granted.
yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's been like one of the big things for me
Mhm.
is being thankful. And then also for me, my like the things that make me happy is serving people.
Yes. But
And
yeah, and I
then
would I would say that I would define you in the encyclopedia as a big picture, you going like this, and that's you. You are so
yeah.
giving with your time and with your energy and your creativity, and it's like your helping hand. And I would want to work for you, right? Like that I think shows a lot of leadership skills of when somebody's like, man, I would work for him. I would want him to lead me through this. And you are one of those people. And you do it with no strings attached. Like you reach out, you'll call people because I've been the recipient of that. Of like, happy birthday, I'm just thinking of you. Here's a short little video of you, and I want to think about you. Or do you remember? when you did this at school or whatever. And it's like, that makes me feel it's like a thank you letter, right? It's like reminding people that are in your life that you're connected to, and you make them feel special, John. And you've always done that. And you do that with everyone, not just me. It's just, I see you do that. And I know that's why you're a great leader. And I know that's why you've moved up the corporate ladder and where you are now, and why you're in a position that you have the ability to follow your passions. Because
Oh yeah.
it's not all about, okay, I got to do the grind, I got to do the work, and that's it. It's like, you know that there's this work-life balance. And how have you achieved that? Like, how did you come to terms with, you know what, I'm okay in my life right now. I have what I need, but I want to do this. How did you come to peace with that? How do you manage that?
Oh gosh. So like one like I got in a role that's like I'm pretty passionate about. Like I'm really passionate about like
Mechanical
strategy,
engineering?
improvements, and then just because it kind of like caters to the serving part of like what makes me happy is like making sure that people are successful in what they're doing and that people they're engaged and that they can like the world isn't like forced on them, but they can actually make change in the world and like can improve people's lives. I think that's like
Hmm.
one of the big things. And I've gotten in a role where we've been able to do that, and it's been a pretty fun role, even though it's corporate. But
Yeah,
that's
but
really
that lifts
enabled me
you
to.
up.
What was that?
That lifts you up too. It's like it
Oh
makes
gosh,
you
yeah,
feel happy and it makes them feel happy. And I think what I'm hearing is that you're saying like every single person that you meet or you work with or is in your team has this knowledge, experience, and stories that is valuable and can make
yeah.
a difference to people. And you bring that out in people. And I think one of the biggest things that you do is that you not only value that, but you make them real. You uncover their onion and like take the layers off and you reveal that to them, that like how special they are, and you do make them feel heard, seen, and valued, like Brene Brown talks about.
Oh yeah, because like everyone has like different talents and different skill sets and different knowledge, and it's just trying to figure out like what's the best route for them to be successful and
Mhm.
what's going to be interesting. Like if you're going to be working at doing something for a long amount of time, you want to make sure that people are having a good time doing it, right?
Do you,
Unless it's just like oh good.
no, do you do outside of your team building, like with what let's say AT&T requires you to do you do things with your teams or with your employees or the people underneath you that you bring to the table, or do you do self-development that you work on you
Oh yeah, yeah.
outside of corporate?
So from the aspect of like my team, the way that I organize it is I typically do like I have like big opportunities that or big projects that come up, and usually I just give it up to the team of kind of like one who's interested and then two who has skill set around that, and usually we do like a partnership around those types of projects, which
Mhm.
has worked really well because then usually you get like someone who has like a lot of knowledge set in an area. It could be like in financials, it could be in supply chain, it could be in engineering or construction or contracts.
Mhm.
But typically you'll have someone that's like really well versed in it, and then you have someone who's like interested in going in that area. So then so everyone's kind of like getting something out of it. Like either you're mentoring someone or you are learning something new that you want to get into or get more exposed to. So I think that's when. Oh, good.
How do you find your mentors? Like, who do you look up to within your work? Like, is it would you say would you think that it's fair to say that you can learn from anyone? So you can learn from somebody who's way older than you or younger than you or
Oh
even
God.
not on the same salary base, like in corporate or outside. How do you learn? Like, who are your mentors?
Yeah, some of my mentors, like specifically around work, like I've been really lucky with having really good mentors that like either I'm able to like get mentorship around strategy or around like how I can maneuver, around like getting through no
Yeah.
or the network of people to kind of figure out like what are the pain points or what are the big issues with like how do we get to like these other avenues of getting to the solution.
Mhm.
So so I know my mentors at work, my director who's you know I work for, I like very close with, but like he never really had like an easy life, but
Mhm.
because of that, like he's also kind of come in the same vein of like, having soft skills, you're not going to like, things aren't granted. So don't feel entitled to like having your first answer be the solution, but
Hmm.
let's like figure out like what's the best ways of getting to the solution so that we can all get to the place where we want to. Um, and being flexible, like that's the other big thing is like flexibility. Like he's very flexible. So, he's not like flexible where he's not like, um, he doesn't get things done or has to forgo getting his objectives, but but he is flexible in the fact that he's realistic of like how much change that we can do.
Hmm.
um, I think I've learned a lot from that, and
Hmm.
learned a lot from his organizational skills and how he leads. I like the cadence of how he leads, so I try to like do that with my people.
Hmm.
um, and and then the other mentors that I've had too is just like, I think like the general stance is that one, they're very positive. Two, you know, they're they have a lot of grit, because like, you might get no's quite a bit in life, and you don't let it bring you down. And seeing that it doesn't bring people down, I think that definitely motivates me to like continue to push and
Hmm.
continue to like show that like, that you can make a difference.
I love that. I love also that like hanging around the positive people, right? It's like I don't like hanging out with Eeyores, right? But at the same time, it's like if you're not learning from your connections or growing or improving from the people that you surround yourself around, or they're not growing from you, then it's like time to reevaluate your connections and be like, for you, you're so positive. And I think that that's part of the thing is that you have this group of people that love and care and wish to emulate you, and they trust you and you have empathy with, and it's like you would do anything for them. And that is what brings the best out of you as well. But it also brings the best out of all the people that you're around.
Oh yeah, they have that saying. What is it? It's like that you are like the sum of like either like the 5 or 7 people.
You were going to say the sum of four. That's awesome. No, I agree with that 100%. Um, when I think that the surrounding yourself around those positive people really does bring out your best, but it brings out the other people as well. And when you are like outside of corporate, do you also surround yourself around the people that you're passionate around, or do you have like a core group of people that you're just like, okay, this is who I hang out with now?
Yeah, so I have like two different friend groups. I have like my friend groups at work, very like-minded. Everyone's like very like strategy oriented and very like can do.
Hmm.
And they like change. I think that's like a big thing with them is like they do like change and facilitating it. On my personal life, I have like you, I have like a lot of other folks that are like a little more local to the Seattle area that like that really pushed me from like my like physical attitude. They're always doing these like weird challenges around like, I don't know, like the last
Now
challenge
you
was
can't the audience can't see that what in great shape you are for being your age, but you are, and you're like you demolish me in sports these days. And I love it. But you're keeping up with the spring chickens. I love that. Um,
oh yeah.
can you talk about like so outside of work? I think you had mentioned like, oh, you're staying healthy and you're grateful for the way that you look and the way that you feel, and you're able to do things still. You're still able to do the things that I think that's for me with my two kids. It's like I'm still able to play with them. Like I can run and jump and play tag and go on the swing sets and things. Even though I get a little sick, I get like lightheadedness. Um, it's just like I'm able to play with them, and so do you think that being able to keep doing that and staying young, let's say, and staying active has helped you as well, following passions and not just being so strict on work and climbing that corporate ladder?
Yeah, I've always had a motto where like I didn't want to like live my life after retirement. I've always wanted to live my life kind of throughout, like making enough so I'm still happy and satisfied, but like
Hmm.
being able to have time to actually like travel and go like adventure around. I'm a huge proponent of like having a really good work-life balance. And I,
Hmm.
and I definitely encourage that for like my work teams as well. But for my personal life, I've been fortunate enough to like travel a lot. Like when I say travel, like I think I've been to like 35 different countries so far, which I've been like, and I'm not like trying to dock it, like trying to like knock them all out, but like I
Mhm.
was just looking at that the other day, and I'm super grateful of being able to like travel and see the world while you can still be able to like hike or do some
Yeah.
adventures and not like, not being like on a cruise or like doing something a little slow. It
Yeah.
can be a little more fast paced. And,
I
and
I went to South Africa with my grandmother and I chaperoned her went and gosh, I think it was right after college. And we went down there and I learned two things. Older people really get up at 4 in the morning
yeah.
and they're cold and 110 degrees. It's like, whoa. But I was able to do everything on this tour, right? Because the I was the youngest by like 35, 40 years. And so I was the one eating all the crazy foods, and I was the one dancing with the Zulus and like learning how their art. And it was like I'm playing as a kid, but I wasn't a kid. And it's like being able to do those things, those experiences are so valuable, and they bring out your inner young kid. And I love that with traveling. And you're able to do that wherever you go because you are healthy and because you are able to hang around that group of people that brings out your best.
Oh yeah. And I'm a huge proponent. Like do it while you're young when you can, and just like continue to do it. Like there's nothing to stop you, right? Like you shouldn't have to wait until you're like an age. Like you should
Right.
be able to like have that being able to like be curious and be like and explore an adventure. I think that's like that's one of the biggest like passions I have too, other than doing like work strategy stuff, is just
Mhm.
like being out and going out and creating things. That's the other thing I love to do too, is I just like making content, like either
Mhm.
through like, photography or through like video edits. Like I really love doing that as like
Mhm.
a side passion.
Mhm.
That's what I do like a lot of the times on my as a hobby.
Well,
Um,
and you're good at that. Like at UW in Seattle at our college, they have these cherry blossom trees in the form, and it's like you do some kind of drone picture, and I've seen you do it where it comes down and it swoops down. It's just like the coolest thing, and you were doing that way before any of the influencers, which was amazing. And I love that. I want to I want to hit really quick because I want to go back to something about surrounding yourself around people who are better than you or know more than you or can give you tips and tricks. And you were one of those people because when we were in the business school together, you and I did case competitions and like business case competitions, and we didn't final. We didn't make the final. We didn't get first place. And I remember asking you straight up, and I mention you in my book that you were the guy that said, you go, what I would do is I would prioritize what's most important to you and think of it as a pie. And you only have two or three pieces that you should be chewing at a single time. Don't worry about the rest. Because if you worry about all of the other pieces of pie, you're never going to finish that pie. And prioritize the pieces that you really want to do, two or three of them, and devote all of your time and effort to it. And when you're done, then move on. And that is something that I have taken since college, since 25 years ago, right? And it's like, I think it's even longer than that. But I have taken that in everything that I've done. And it was you who told me that, John, that one little piece of information. And I think if I didn't surround myself around people who were better than me or that I wanted to be like or that brought out my best, I would never have gotten that. And that has made my life so much better, the ability to prioritize. And those priorities can change, obviously. Like right now, I have kids. So it's like my priority is my kids versus like work and such. But it's like that's something that is I've always taken with me and your optimism. And I've loved that. And I honestly would work for you, mister. I really would. Um,
um, Thanks.
yeah. I want to finish up with if you saw your past self, like you got on an airplane and you looked over and there was a little Hoa right next to you, and you had a moment to tell yourself, what is the one thing that you would tell your past self to overcome rejection, failure, and self-doubt, or to overcome these no's? What would you say to yourself?
Gosh, the one big thing I would say is probably don't be afraid to fail. I think like I've always been kind of like reluctant to trying to take a big chance,
Mm-hmm.
but like take the big chances. Like the biggest thing is like people can say no, but it's not always like it's not like always a solid no. Like there's always different opportunities that you can, different routes of getting to the same place. So I think that that would be like one of the big things, is to just take more chances and be okay with failing. Because if you're like, the biggest thing is like you never fail, because if you're learning something out of it, that's the biggest takeaway, right? Because then you're actually like growing
That
and
is
not failing.
No, that's so powerful. And it's true, but we are all afraid of stepping outside of our box, taking that chance, risking something. And it's like, how much fun do you have by taking that chance? And even if you are told no, it's not the end of the world. It's different. Being rejected is way different than being ejected by an airplane of 1,000 miles an hour to a fire death, right? It's like
Oh yeah.
it's just a no. It's just a failure, and it's like I hear that overwhelming with you saying like it's like well, I want to go do these things. I want to be passionate about skydiving, or I want to jump off this cliff, or I want to drone fly, or whatever. And it's like you take these chances, and it makes you so much better. That I think honestly, that's your self-development. It's like surrounding yourself around those people that bring out your best and to take chances. And
Oh
you don't
yeah.
have to read a book for that, right?
Yeah, you can learn from everybody, right? Like
Hmm.
everyone's like everyone has a talent, either they're through their charisma, their skill set, or their knowledge. Like there's lots of stuff you can always grow from everyone around you. So
Well, and school doesn't end. College
oh,
education does
never
not
end.
end at the day you graduate, because we keep on going. And I still remember us graduating together and putting on our hats down at UW at the stadium.
Oh
And
yeah.
that was 25 years ago. So, and I love it. Where can it your knowledge and your experience has been I love it. And you've impacted me and made a difference in my life, John. And I appreciate you so much. You talk about you being grateful for the things that you have. I'm grateful to have you in my life. I really am. And some of the nuggets that you have given me and the friendship that I have, I could call you tomorrow and you would drive from Seattle to Spokane to help me. I know
Oh, of
that.
course.
Oh,
Anytime.
perfect. I'll call you tonight. Um, I love that. Where can people find out more about you and follow you and your passions? Because I know that you are uber creative with content, and I know that that's your side passion. But tell us about that, please.
Yeah, yeah. You'll if you can find me on Instagram. It's at Johnny HD 24. So JOHNNYHD 24. Yeah, on that page, I do a lot of like my like creative side of my life through either like video editing, photography, a lot of like travel tips, or hiking, or different hikes that are around.
Mhm.
Not around, not just only in like the Washington area, but like kind of, that's kind of
All
like my
over the
thing.
world,
Yeah, going to places.
35 countries apparently, and hopefully we're going to make that 70 here pretty soon. But I would suggest anybody to reach out to John too, and not only follow him, but I know that you reach out and you actually converse with people that do try to connect with you. And
Oh, of course, yeah.
your experiences, you make it fun. And you take people along your journey, and you are creative. And you didn't go to school for that. I will vouch for that, right? You did not go to school. You've learned, and I want to hit that really quick, that you have learned through trial and error. You didn't take photography class. You didn't take content management. You didn't take like videography. It's like you're learning as you go. And the only reason you're doing well is because you keep failing. You like, well, that sucked. That
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
very
like things don't
fun.
work out. Things
Yeah, you
won't work
redo
out
it. You
all the
keep
time. So
trying. You fall down and you get back up. And you are the epitome of that, John. And I am so thankful to have you in my life and for you to continue to make a difference in my life and my kids and my wife too. So thank you for being a part of that.
I
And thank you
appreciate
for
it. I
jumping
love
on
it.
today with me.
Oh, of course, anytime.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, and I want to hear 70, not 35 here pretty soon. So maybe we're going to take one of those trips together, and you can show me how to do some new content.
Dude, let's do it. Let's do it.
I'll take my
Let's do
AT-AT with me.
it. Yeah.
All right. I love you, boy. Have a great day, and thank you so much for coming on.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. This is great. Great
Thanks,
seeing you.
John. You too, brother.
All right.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Navigating No. I hope you found today's conversation just as inspiring and insightful as I did. We'd love your help to make it even better. So, if you enjoyed this episode, we would love to hear your feedback. And if you think someone else could benefit from hearing it, please share it and help us spread optimism and positivity. We release a new interview every Monday, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.